What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another interview here on Fightful. Today, we are sitting here with another person that we interviewed a little while back, Mr. JJ Gale, the heart and soul of RevPro Wrestling. How are you doing today, man?
Yeah, doing good, Corey. Pleasure to be back on the show and have another chat. And I think there's plenty to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to start kind of where the most of the topic of last time we spoke was about the Revolution Rumble. You had an let's just say a lengthy performance in that match, coming in at number 5. What was that match like for you on your cardio, on just the brutality of it, and just being in that position in that match?
Yeah, I mean, the shirt's here to prove it. And just in case anyone forgot, we're talking 1 hour, 9 minutes, 12 seconds. So
Yeah.
pick up your commemorative shirt to remember that. Yeah, no, it was a hell of a shift, I guess you could say. You know, it's the longest I've been in the ring by far. And, it's different to being in a singles match or a lot of other matches. It's a rumble. There's moments of action. There's moments where you've got to be on, and there's other moments where maybe you're just in the background a little bit and you're still working, but maybe not the focal point of the match. So, yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience. The Revolution Rumble the year before was a huge night for me. And it's becoming a bit of a tradition, to be the Iron Man of the Rumble that year. Yeah, a lot going on, a bit of a whirlwind of a night, to be honest. But there were times to kind of catch your breath and, just do a little bit of work in the corner and then be there for when you really needed. But yeah, huge night for me again. Another sort of leveling up moment, final 3 in there with Ricky and Luke. And to last that long, I think kind of just showed what I'm all about as a professional wrestler, showed my heart, showed my soul, showed my resilience, and showed that I'm one of the top guys in RevPro. And that was kind of another moment for me to be like, look, here I am, here with 2 of the biggest, most established stars. And I want to be in that conversation as well.
And after the Revolution Rumble, you actually did face off with Ricky Knight Jr. a couple of times in multi-man matches, in single match. What was that like working with Ricky on that level, especially coming off that performance in the Revolution Rumble?
Yeah, great. I mean, me and Ricky go back years. We wrestled on, a lot smaller shows when we were just teenagers. So it was kind of cool every time we get in the ring just to see where we've come as professional wrestlers, where we've developed. So yeah, always look forward to getting in there with him. He brings the fight, and that makes you bring the fight. So yeah, it's always a pleasure to get in there and wrestle Ricky.
And you've mentioned him as well. I have to mention him. He's going to be in the main event at the Copper Box on Saturday. Sorry, Mr. Luke Jacobs. You did wrestle him again a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, you had that match that we talked about earlier this year. You're facing off against someone that kind of helped propel Luke into the position that he's been in for the last year, where he's slowly been building up as kind of this phenom on the British scene. Do you see a couple of like parallels between yourself and Luke at this stage of your career?
Yeah, I guess so. Luke spent the last 2-3 years in RevPro and other promotions around Europe, sort of building his stock, proving himself to the wider wrestling world, and it's someone that undoubtedly is that step or 2 ahead of me. You look at guys like him and Mike and Leon and Robbie, that top echelon of guys that are asserting themselves on a worldwide stage, and you see that as kind of a blueprint of something that you want to do. And part of that's getting in there and working with those guys and holding your own and creating a buzz like the match me and Luke had off, and that we talked about last time, which was part of the reason we had the chat back in February, March sort of time. So yeah, I'd like to see that as kind of a roadmap, but also I want to do it my way, and I want to present who I am as a professional wrestler and go at my own pace. I've been in this game a little while, but I feel like just things are starting to click now and they're falling into place. And, all those pieces of the puzzle are slowly starting to come together. It's a big puzzle and it's not going to be complete for some time, but I feel like we're in a good stead. So yeah, definitely, look at people like Luke for inspiration, and also you're looking to take their spot eventually at some point. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
for sure.
And I have to say about this week, and I'm very excited for your match with Tomohiro Ishii. What has that been? Did you feel a lot of pressure coming into this match? Because obviously Ishii is such a legend of the Japanese scene, and now he's a regular on AEW television, and he's going to be competing at Wembley on Sunday. So is there a lot of pressure on your shoulders going into this match?
Absolutely, of course. I mean, you've named all of the reasons why. we get into this sport, into this profession, this industry to have matches like this with legends of the game like Tomohiro Ishii. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure on me to go in there to deliver, and to do what I know I can do. But I think I've proven over the last couple of years that I thrive under pressure. These high pressure, big situations have when I've been able to sort of up my game and move up the ranks and raise a few eyebrows, turn a few heads. And I just see this as another opportunity to do that. I've never felt more prepared and more ready. And I just think now's my time to go out there and show the world what I can do. So I'm ready.
And just to be more specific about Ishii in general, like just because, like as I said, he's just such a legend. Like when the match was brought to you, and it was like I imagine was offered to you by Andy Quilden, what was your initial reaction?
I mean, excited, really, to be honest. Like I say, this is what we get in here to do, to perform in arenas with thousands of people, with legends of the game that you can learn from and that are going to iron sharpens iron. So you get in there with someone like that, you're only going to get better. All of these big matches, Josh Alexander, Zack Sabre Jr., wrestling at the Copper Box last year with Fujita, all these big marquee moments are what have helped me develop and get to that next level. So yeah, excited. But obviously there's that sort of nervous energy that, you understand the sport you're in and the pressure that's on. But like I say, I think I kind of thrive off that. And they say pressure's where diamonds are made. So I hope to have a diamond of a performance on Saturday at the Copper Box.
And just a quick branch off there because you did mention him, and I wanted to ask about that match, that singles match that you did have with Josh Alexander, and those exchanges you had with him in the Revolution Rumble. What was that like for you? Because obviously, with Josh being such a big name in TNA, a big star in the States, with regards to how he is in the States, I mean, so what was that like to work with Josh on that level and have that moment with him in the Rumble?
Yeah, really cool. He's a really good guy. And once again, it was another chance for me to sort of test myself against one of the very best in the industry. And, when you have those opportunities and they go well and you have that good match and, it was really well received by the fans. Josh himself was extremely complimentary to me afterwards in person and online, which, I said to him, you don't have to do this. Like a guy in your position doesn't have to be putting over, a guy a lot lower down the level, I guess you could say, a guy coming up on the British independence, but he did, and I appreciate that. And to me, that tells me that something went right that night in that match. And it was special for me to be in Southampton, my adopted hometown. I've been here for 7-8 years now, and I really do see this as my home. And I've grown as a professional wrestler since living here in Southampton. So to do that in front of my people was, it was a real special night for me.
I can imagine. So, and with your position on last year's 11th anniversary card and now up to now this position, do you feel like you're making a steady way up the card for the Copper Box shows, and next year you thinking maybe undisputed British heavyweight title picture?
I mean, if you're not thinking that, what are you doing? They say if you haven't got the highest ambitions in the industry, what are you doing? And I have always had that, and it was recently I did a training seminar with Dijak actually, and asked him a question. He said, well, to answer this question, what are your goals? I set a certain goal, and I kind of tried to keep it a little bit humble, a little bit sort of realistic, I guess you could say. And he was like, well, is that your goal? Is that your end goal? Is that short term, long term? Because as I've just said, he said, if you're not aiming for the very top, then that's fine. But like my perspective, and it has always been my perspective, but a guy like that, I don't want to, come across in the wrong way. So maybe I've tried to rein it back a bit. But yeah, I mean, that is obviously we want to be at the very top, and the very top of the scene I'm in now is to be the undisputed British heavyweight champion. So aim big, and they say shoot for the sky, and if you fall, you're in the stars, or whatever the phrase is. But I mean, it's true. You go for the very top, and you either get there or you've worked your ass off to get in a great position that's just as exciting or big. But yeah, progression and growth is always at the forefront for me, and I'm constantly thinking about different ways that I can do and achieve that.
And I mentioned a little bit about pressure earlier about this match at the weekend, but it really is kind of this year and last year, it's kind of been almost, it's the same thing as kind of a WrestleMania week in the States, like with All In coming to town for AEW in Wembley Stadium, with more eyes because of that and so on and so forth. Does that kind of open yourself up to more pressure, or is it kind of a thing that where you've compartmentalized it and it just kind of motivates you?
Yeah, I mean, of course, you're aware of all these things. Like I say the same thing. This is WrestleMania weekend, but for All Elite Wrestling, arguably the second biggest company in the world right now. It's just we're very lucky that for the last 2 years it's been right here on our doorstep in London. But yeah, the wrestling world's eyes are on London for that weekend, and I'd say easiest second biggest show that's happening that weekend is RevPro's anniversary show at the Copper Box. So yeah, I imagine a lot of people are watching it. For me, I kind of just want to focus on the task at hand and not get distracted by all of that stuff. But I'm aware of it. I think we talked last time. There were people from AEW in attendance for the match with Luke at High Stakes, Tony, and a few of the wrestlers. You're aware of that, but that's kind of background noise. Focus on the job at hand. Do what you know you can do, and go out there and do your best. And then what happens. Who sees it, and that's all just kind of part of the process.
And I want to kind of circle back a little now to another event that you did actually have, a crossover event that RevPro did have with CMLL. And you actually found yourself on the same team as Mystical, facing off against Gabe Kidd and so on the other opposite side of the ring. What was that match like for you? Because obviously Mystical being just one of the most legendary Lucha Libre stars in the world, really.
Yeah, I mean, it just speaks to the year I've had. And, sometimes it takes these chats with people like yourself to actually reflect and be like, I mean, how cool is this? In April, I was in there with arguably one of the top, names in the States in Josh Alexander. That run he had as Impact World Champion was incredible. The matches he had. A couple months later, you're in there tagging with literally Mexican wrestling royalty Mystico in the main event of a co-promoted show with CMLL. And now here we are about to go head-to-head with a Japanese wrestling legend in Tomohiro Ishii. It is what you get into this industry to do. And sometimes you kind of lose sight of that when you're so focused on the job at hand. But yeah, that was a really cool experience. For me, it's getting in there with different wrestlers from different backgrounds, different levels of fame and whatever else, and just kind of figuring out how that makes you a better professional wrestler. Working these different styles and these different matches, it's only growing you as a professional wrestler and being a well-rounded one. And that's something getting into wrestling I always sort of admired from some of the guys I looked up to, was the way they went around the world. Although maybe I haven't got around the world quite as much as I would have liked. I have traveled around Europe, and now I'm getting these opportunities to face people from different parts of the wrestling world. And I think it's been great.
And my next question for you, man, is just veering off a little away from RevPro for a minute. The SWW title, you did win it in June against Chris Bronson in a great match. What are your feelings about winning that championship? And do you think it sets the tone for what you want to achieve in RevPro?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's the first time I've been sort of given the ball to be a singles champion and top champion of a promotion. Which in my eyes is them saying, we believe that you're enough of a draw for us to sell tickets, to bring people back each time, to go out in that main event every time and deliver and put on a show and send the fans home happy or satisfied with whatever story you've told. And just, it's a chance for me to be the guy somewhere. And I think Southwest Wrestling is, it's where I started my wrestling journey, was in that area of the country. I started training in Gloucester with Evo Wrestling. They now collaborate a little bit, and it's kind of cool to go back there now, the wrestler I am today, and sort of have that championship and sort of lead the charge for them into this new era. And like I say, just be given the ball to kind of be that guy and do the best I can, and then hopefully be able to do that in other places and as many places as possible, RevPro and beyond. So yeah, really enjoying my run there. We've had some real fun shows recently. I'm going to be back with them in a few weeks in Shrewsbury for a big match with Charlie Sterling, who's someone that I think is underrated, if dare I say that. Maybe there's a new crop of guys coming up, but he's been one of the guys that's been an incredible talent on the scene for ages. So I'm really looking forward to sort of, get in there with him. So yeah, really enjoying my run. And if anyone's not checking out Southwest Wrestling, I know they're not the biggest independent in the UK, but they're doing some real cool stuff. So do check them out.
Is that a major interest for you in working other promotions other than RevPro, or is it kind of like you'll work a couple, but it's RevPro is the main goal at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be everywhere. I think every independent wrestler will tell you the same. The more reps you get, the more places you are, the better you become. Just like I mentioned earlier about wrestling with these different people from different areas of the world. The more wrestling you're doing, all you're going to do is get better. Sure, you're taking some hits off the bump card, but I'm young and I'm feeling all right, so I'm not worried about that at all. So yeah, I want to be everywhere. I want to be in Ireland, Scotland, across Europe, in the States, Japan. I want to be everywhere. Sure, RevPro's my home promotion, and it's been a goal of mine to get to the very top there. So yeah, but I want to be everywhere and sort of show the world who JJ Gale is.
And before I do let you go, last thing I do want to ask, I asked you this a while back, and now with just the added context of what's happened since then, what are your goals for the remainder of 2024 and into 2025 with your professional wrestling career and in RevPro?
I think, like I just said, get out places. I think the Irish scene is popping at the moment, and with places like OTT delivering these stellar shows, it's the sort of thing as a professional wrestler you look at and you're like, I want in on that. Whenever you see something big and exciting happening somewhere, you want to be involved in that. So I'd love to break into the Irish scene. I want to keep my progression in RevPro within the next year. That British Heavyweight Championship, around the waist of the heart and soul of Revolution Pro, for me, makes a lot of sense. But if nothing else, just to get a chance at wrestling for that belt. Off the top of my head, I don't think I've ever wrestled for that, and I'm sure I'd remember if I had. I think I've had a couple shots at the Cruiserweight title, but I've never wrestled for the British Undisputed Heavyweight Championship. So whether it's Mike or Luke coming out of the copper box, I'd love a shot of that. So that's the goal. And keep growing and elevating Southwest Wrestling and myself as a professional wrestler, just keep going and growing. Even just chatting to you now has kind of been one of those moments where you can see all this stuff that's happened in this progression in the last 6 months. So if we can carry on at this rate and keep going, then who knows what's next. So I'm excited, and I hope you guys are all with me on the journey.
And before I do let you go, do you want to tell people where they can follow you and other upcoming bookings other than that match with Charlie Sterling, which I'm very interested in, by the way?
Awesome. Yeah, it's going to be fun. So yeah, we are at JJGale_PW on all the socials. That's X, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, the full works. So yeah, find me on there. I've got everything coming up, match clips, photos, obviously all upcoming events. We've got the Copper Box this weekend. That's the big one for anyone who's on the fence about it. I've been saying it in all these interviews. Jump off the fence right into the Copper Box, because this is, in my opinion, the biggest show in professional wrestling history. You've got worldwide dream matches like the Zack Sabre match. You've got, the top of the British scene going at it in the main event, and then sort of establishing themselves to say to the world, we are here and we are the top. And then you've got guys like me who's looking to, prove a point against Tomohiro Ishii. So support us, support British wrestling, support RevPro. We can't do it without you. So make sure you're there. Then we've got Germany. I was recently a couple of days ago announced for that. GWF and RevPro's doubleheader in Berlin next weekend. So I'm going to be there for those two shows. Fast forward a week, we've got TCW down in Plymouth. And like I said, Southwest Wrestling in Shrewsbury. Moving on from that, we've got Ignite Pro Wrestling. And then I believe pretty soon we've got a doubleheader for RevPro, the J Cup and Sheffield. And this is all off the top of my head. I haven't got all my bookings next to me, but I know I'm booked and pretty much for the rest of the year. So just keep an eye on those socials to find out where you can see JJ Gale next.
Once again, guys, keep an eye on JJ. As I said last time, I'll say it again, one of the best young stars in Europe at the moment and the heart and soul of RevPro Wrestling. If you're new to Fightful, make sure to like, subscribe, and come back for new interviews. Interviewing a lot of RevPro talent recently and probably will in the future as well. So make sure to come back and do check out the 12th anniversary show at the weekend, guys. It is going to be a massive show. And see you guys in the next one.